Or can I call you Tony?
Tony is preferred. The Mister, it makes me feel old. I don't know. I'm like, who, me? I am
I don't know. I don't know. I felt like I should call you Mr. Weaver, superhero Weaver, all those great things. I've been doing a deep dive on you on the internet, and I had the privilege of reading your book. And yeah, my name is Bridgette, by the way. And first and foremost, I'm a parent and I'm a teacher. And I feel so grateful to have an opportunity to spend a little time talking with you about your book, Weirdo.
well, I mean, I'm grateful to get the chance to spend some time with you today. From what I hear, you're not just any teacher. You're a teacher of the year for an entire state. My mother was a public educator when I was growing up. She's at the district level now, but when she was a teacher, she was also teacher of the year. So I recognize how large and great of an achievement that is.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. Um, Weirdo, where did it come from?
I think for me, uh, I think when I think about weirdo, when I describe it to people, I describe it to them as the nerdy kid's instruction manual for self-love and self-confidence. And I think that ethos is kind of where the story arose from. I looked around at kids in my community that were struggling. Some of which might be in your community too. I'm very close with the school director of Crete Academy in
Yes,
Inglewood.
yes.
So I spend a lot of time over there. I'll be paying them a visit in a few weeks, actually.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
so I looked around at the kids in my community and I saw that they needed help, they needed support, and a lot of it was the support that I wish I had when I was dealing with my own mental health struggle. And the idea kind of presented itself. Um, Maybe my experiences can be the thing that helps. Maybe the thing that I overcame can be the thing that I use to help others.
Right,
It's a deep privilege for me to be able to do that as a writer.
right, right. I wholeheartedly agree. I was when I started reading it, it felt like you said, kind of a manual, kind of a guide. As a teacher, this is my 32nd year, and I was so in awe of how I could just use this immediately as an SEL book, as a book to have a deep discussion, a real discussion with older kids, not just fourth and fifth graders, but with middle schoolers as well. And I have a 14-year-old, and I said,
Mm.
I cannot wait to purchase this and have her sit down and read it because I know it will so resonate with her. And so, first and foremost, just thank you. Thank you for the book. When I watched your TED talk, and you talked about volunteering in a classroom, and I have to say you would definitely give Michael B. Jordan a run for his money. I
I'm
mean,
trying. I'm trying.
let's just
It
be
feels
honest.
good to hear. I'm trying.
Be honest about that. But when you talked in your TED talk about how you were visiting this kid an hour a week, and in my platform I talk about volunteering and how important it is to volunteer and to bring the talents that you have to the classroom. And I am so glad that that's exactly what you did and what the gifts you were able to give. And then it illuminated something for you in the sense that here you are, a great role model, an excellent example, and yet the child didn't see themselves represented. And so they thought they had to go Halloween dressed up like a character from Grand Theft Auto.
Mhm.
Tell me, tell me how that lit a match or turned a switch for you. What was that like?
So the student that I work with was a fourth grader named Nazir, and one of my biggest, I think the way that I'll know that I've made it as as a writer, as a personality, whatever you want to call it, the way that I'll know I've made it is when I'm on like the Jennifer Hudson show or the Kelly Clarkson show, and they go, "Well, we went and found him. Here's Nazir," because I haven't gotten to talk to him since I left the school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, every week he was such a like ball of joy for me, like just
Oh,
just like such light, in a way where, like, I mean, you understand it, kids
yeah.
just brutally honest, not even trying to be aggressive or trying to be hostile, just I feel therefore I say, and I don't understand why you would expect me to do anything different. So being around that humbles you in many a ways, but I as I spent time with him, I saw so much of myself in him, and I also saw what was on the path ahead. Like I kind of was able to project in my mind, well, when he bumps into this or when he runs into this, here's probably how he's going to be treated. Um, I won't be here when that happens. How can I support him and prepare him for when it does? And that was a
Right.
lot of the attitude that went into writing and developing Weirdo. Um, I love working with young people. It's wild because, like I said, my mom's an educator, and I exist at this very interesting intersection because, on one hand, I know I know what it feels like when you're failed by an institution. The school that I was in, I did not receive the support that I needed. I don't feel like my teachers were there for me in the way that they should have been. The resources I was given weren't adequate. I know how it feels when you fall through the cracks in a system. But
Right.
also, because of my mom being an educator in that same district, I also know how illuminating and how empowering it can be when you have someone in that system that's a fierce advocate for you. Um, and I guess because of both of those experiences, I knew there's always gonna be a kid that falls through a crack. I don't want it to be, but that possibility is always there. What can I make that can be there to catch that kid? What can I write to be there to extend a hand and help them up when they stumble and when they fall, when they don't feel like anybody else can be there? And
Right.
that's what Weirdo became.
Okay.
And I think those experiences that I had working with Nazir certainly set the tone and kind of planted the seed for it.
Okay. Okay. Going back to you were talking about being in school and not having the support you needed.
Yeah.
And in the book, you touched on the devastation of low expectations and how when you wrote a piece and then the teacher accused you of plagiarism, and talk about that. Talk about what that did for you.
I want to express that Weirdo is a true book. Like, it's real. This is my life. Uh, and I think that some people are going to read it, and some of the things that they're going to see are going to be sad. And in an attempt to kind of process that, they're going to go, well, maybe he like made it a little bit more dramatic for the purpose of the book. Like, maybe it didn't happen exactly like that, but that's exactly how it happened. Especially in those first three chapters. Those first three chapters are that is exactly how it went. And in that moment, I think a part of the way that I set that moment up, to me, the danger and the red flags should have started going off before we even got to that classroom. And I think for a lot of people, it won't register because I think the way that we treat kids in the public education system right now is something that kind of leads them down that path where they're in danger of kind of bumping into somebody that has expectations for them that are lower than what they're actually capable of. And Weirdo, when I show up in my school, we get herded into an assembly, and the first thing that we hear is, uh, our theme for the year is the leaders of tomorrow because we
Right.
expect all of you to be leaders. And I travel to schools around the country. I hear the talk. I hear the like. These are our leaders. These are our scholars. These are our, and I always get this kind of sneaking feeling in the back of my head, the shadow that kind of creeps over me. And I go, well, if if everyone's a leader, then who's following? You can't
Exactly.
have a team of all leaders.
Right.
You can't have a team where every single person is leading the charge. That's not how units work. But as a system, we put emphasis on the people who can lead. Those are the people that we care about. Um,
Got it.
I have a joke that I tell where I say, when you're in elementary school, you graduate from elementary school, they're like, you are the future. We're so excited for the way you're going to change the world. And then you get to middle school, and they're like, sit down and shut up. Put your phone at the front of the room. Don't talk. Take those earbuds out of your ear. Take that hood off. I said, take that hoodie off. it immediately becomes this completely different thing. And I remember being like, what? I thought I was a leader of tomorrow. What is all this heat? What's
Right.
all this smoke? What happened? Why am I being why am I being treated like this? Um,
Exactly.
and I think that dichotomy, where there are kids that are going to lead and they're gifted and that are going to do great, and there are other kids that are really just here as daycare until they graduate and then they go work at a warehouse somewhere. And that's
Okay.
just a accepted thing that we just embody and accept in our education system and in the way that we treat kids. And when you treat kids like that, um, they get their dreams crushed in that way. They want to present something to you. They want to show something to you. They want to exhibit excellence in this very binary way that they're being taught that it exists. And for me, that was literally a real subject. I got assigned a paper on Orpheus, and I really liked that guy. I was I had some feelings, and
For a fan.
my teacher just didn't she didn't think I wrote it. She didn't think that was me. Um, and
Mm,
I still think to this day that's something that I carry, not as much, but when
right.
I sit down to write, there's always this element of what people believe I'm capable of, what I'm allowed to write, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yes, that absolutely makes sense. It absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for putting that in the book. As a parent, there were so many aspects of Weirdo I appreciated, and one of the aspects was your use of art and illustrations when it got dark for the
Yeah.
protagonist. I liked how you put certain sections in black and white, and you could tell what was going on with them emotionally when the art would change. Tell me about that process. How did you arrive at that? What made you want to do it that way?
Yeah, I fought for that. Color is really important to me. It's ironic because I read so many manga. Most manga is in black and white, but for me, I'm like, I need the color. It communicates so many things. In Weirdo, their message is being communicated in color for the entire book. So when we start chapter one, everything's red because that's my color. Red is me. Tony's the red color. Each chapter has its own kind of individual color that you'll notice. Like I end up at Green Trails Academy. That whole chapter is green, lots of green uniforms, green trees. But later on in the book, when we meet a character named Courtney, when Courtney shows up, his color is red. He gets a name tag, he gets his nameplate, and his nameplate is in red, and it's coded in a way where you're supposed to see him as an adversary, as an enemy. And as we approach the end of the book and we're able to find that common ground, the color for that chapter is red because they've been the same the whole time. They're the same kid. We've just been given different lenses through which we're supposed to look at them through.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that type of stuff, uh, that gets really exciting for me as a storyteller. So in that third chapter, when we're talking about the dark, when we're entering the dark place, I said that's how it feels when you're in that place. There is no color, there's no brightness, there's no joy. And I use that uh not only to demonstrate how it feels when that light isn't there, but also to illustrate how quickly it can come back. How one action, how one person, how one extended olive branch can be the thing that illuminates somebody's entire world.
Right.
Um, all of the color in the world can drain away, but that one hug, that one, hey, are you okay? That one, hey, I noticed that something's wrong. What's up? That can be the thing that pulls somebody out. Um, and the illustrators that I work with, Jess and Jacinta, I think they did a wonderful job at communicating that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It stood out to me. The other thing that stood out to me, and I'm telling you now, I'm going to suggest this book to my daughters. Well, she's be in ninth grade in the fall, but I'm totally suggesting it to her school. I think it's something that her previous school should take a look at. And they do a class on media literacy. And I've
Mm,
already emailed the teacher your TED Talk. I said, you've got to see this. This is so great. And I don't want this to come off condescendingly,
yeah.
but I want to say this to you. I'm so glad you're here. You're such an amazing gift. and the joy that your book Weirdo, when it hits everybody else's hands, it's going to be amazing. And like I said, I've been doing a deep dive. I've been reading about you and looking at different things on the internet, but the book was just great. The other thing I appreciate is, and I want to know your reasoning for it. You didn't name your attempt.
Yeah.
You didn't name it.
Yeah.
Now, I know what I appreciate about that as a parent and as a teacher, but what was your reason for not naming it?
I think it's a 50-50 split of kind of responsibility and relatability. On paper, the book is intended to be a light. And I think that we did a great job of creating something that's able to broach those difficult and dark topics,
Right.
but also making it very clear that in the end, if we persevere, if we keep moving forward, if we find our community, there is light on the other side, always. And I couldn't name it because I didn't in any way want there to be even a remote possibility that a kid that hasn't found that light yet will see something that I did and decide that's the path that I'm going to go.
Got it. Right.
So it's partially that. It's something that's deeply, deeply personal to me. I think like it's something that I talk about a lot in therapy now. Youth suicide, especially Black youth suicide, hits me like it's like my own sibling every single time I read about it. Every single time I hear about it. It's something that's very personal for me. It's something that's very personal to me. And not from a place of arrogance where I feel like I can save everybody, or I feel like it's my responsibility to go like jump in front of the train like Superman. I just feel someone that has survived it. I feel an intense responsibility to those people, an intense responsibility to those kids. So I couldn't name it because I got a plan for the worst.
Right.
There are kids that are going to read this book when they're in a vulnerable place. And I can't, I got to make sure that you're good. But also, my mental health was my personal darkness. That's the thing that I had to overcome. But in the book, we have a lot of language about this concept of the dark, right? And I think the darkness is going to be different for everybody. There are a lot of kids who are going to read this book, and the mental health struggles that I'm dealing with, they are going to identify bar for bar, and they are going to go, yes, that's me. That's what I'm dealing with. But there's some other kid that's going to go, suicide is never a thought that I've had. This is never something that's crossed my mind. But there is something that you are going to have to deal with that will put you in the dark. There is something that will drain that color. Whatever that thing is, I want to make sure that you can look at this book and kind of the resources and the kind of path that we put in place as a feasible way to overcome that dark.
Yes. Yes. I saw that as well. And the thing that I was glad about was like when you got to the therapist in the book and you were able to, your cousin recognized something that needed to be communicated to your family. And I thought to myself, how clever of Tony not to name it, because now as a child or an adult, I can put myself in that place and I can see myself getting the help I need. Because it wasn't named, I can name it. I can make it anything because I can put myself in the place, and then I can see myself going to the path of getting help. And so that's why when you didn't name it, I thought that's amazing because I can insert myself into it. That was my thought. That's my thought.
My cousin just had her first baby, by the way. So that's interesting. There's we have a baby in the family now running around. He's very he runs the place. He runs the place. This is true. He runs the place.
He should completely, as he should, definitely. I have another question for you. Is there a sequel to Weirdo?
Oh yeah, so Weirdo is book one. I've already written Weirdo 2. Our operating title for Weirdo 2 is Weirdos because
Okay.
I love the squad. And just
Gotcha.
more exploration for the squad. I think more books that happen in the world of Weirdo with those characters are certainly things that I have in mind. I think the thing that's interesting, which it kind of makes Weirdo like there will certainly be more Weirdo books, but the thing that makes the first book a little I guess a bit more special is that
Hmm.
I think this book is going to be the only one that is as intensely autobiographical.
Okay.
Um, so when we look at this experience, Weirdo, the first three chapters are exactly as they happen, like exactly as they happen. As we move through the rest of the book, the events are as they took place. I get a little liberal with ages and time.
Okay.
So like some of the
Okay.
stuff that happened towards the end of the book or things that happened while I was in high school, not necessarily middle school. When I submitted the proposal, I was literally transitioning through all of those grades over the course of the book. And my editor thought, well, I know what you're trying to get out of it, but I feel like
Mhm.
the message that you're trying to communicate is still going to stand firm and shine true, even if the ages aren't exactly the same. But my school legitimately did almost get shut down, and we did
Right. Yeah.
legitimately have to go do an online um, kind of campaign to keep the doors open. In future Weirdo books, we really take on this like magical realism element of Green Trails Academy. You see in the map when he gets to the school, it's a very large school. There are multiple buildings. There are some buildings that we don't go in. So
Yeah.
you go and you're like, well, we have to go to the forbidden building. It's like, oh, what's that? Like on paper, we're just walking across campus. But to these kids, it's like, I'm going on an expedition. I might as well be taking the ring to the fires of Mordor. Uh, um,
Right. Right.
in order, the way that this book is set up. And those are things that I'm excited to explore in future Weirdo titles.
There were a couple of lines in the book that I thought were amazing. And one of the great lines was said by your dad. And it was said, instead of adjusting who you are in a situation, I need you to, instead of adjusting who you are in the situation, I need you to show the situation who you are.
Yeah. My dad has this fire about him and this kind of like intense belief. Uh, Essentially, my dad has a high school diploma. My dad didn't go to college, so when I went to college, I got 2 degrees. And on graduation day, I was like, all right, cool. So your name's on it, and you also paid for it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's yours. Now between the three of us, on average, we all have a degree. Nice. And that was like a big thing for me. But well, when my mom and my dad got married right after high school, and he worked full time to put my mom through undergrad, her master's, and her PhD because he believed so
Beautiful.
much in her and kind of what she wanted to do. And when I came about, that belief was ever present. And he showed that belief in the way that he showed up in my life. And
Okay.
I always think that from my dad's point of view, my dad's deep belief in me and his deep belief in my mom always it made his perspective different when either of us were insecure about anything. So
Ah,
I'm like, oh, I
okay.
don't know what I can do. I know if I can figure this out. And you get my dad, who's like spent his life essentially hedging his bets on me. He's like, I know you
Yeah.
can do it. That's why I go to work every day so that you have the resources to go accomplish and do the thing that you want to do. I literally show with my actions every day that I believe that you can accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. And I send you to this school and you're going to come back after the first day of school like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. Nah, I know. I know. And I don't think I understood the depth of love required for a point of view like that when I was younger. Uh so as an adult, it's something that I reflect on a lot.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. I can't believe this has been amazing. I have 4 pages of notes and questions, but there's no way I can get to all of that today. You are a treasure, and I am so happy I got a chance to read the book. I'd like to know when you're in LA because that's where I am. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. But I've got one last thing I want to say. Um, as a person who does realize that representation is important, as a mother that only allowed her daughters to have books and dolls that looked like them for a very long time when they were growing up, because I needed them to see themselves in their playthings, I appreciated the diversity in the book. I appreciated being able to see lots of different types of kids in the book. And it was done in such a lovely and classy way that it just looked like normal, like the place you would want to be, like you would want to step into that book and have that be your school, because it just looked like where everybody belonged. And as a teacher, I know that belonging is so very important when kids are able to do their best, when you want kids to be at their best. Belonging is something that they have to have. So, can I get you to say one last thing, or one few last things, or whatever you want to impart that I didn't ask the right questions, or um, anything you got?
Yeah, I mean, Green Trails Academy, I think to me, is supposed to be like a magical place. It's supposed to be it's supposed to feel like, wow, I would love to go to school here. And when we were kind of building out the school and the general makeup and all the kids, it felt uh I felt really happy to see all the different ways that blackness kind of showed up in that place. Um, I think we were very particular about making sure that there were a lot of differences. And the good news is that a lot of it we just got the opportunity to be genuine. So like there's a chapter where I have a crush and you meet my crush and she's like dark skinned and she has a gap in her teeth and I'm like that is how she looked and she was beautiful to me. She was that she was and she's beautiful today. We're not in touch like all the time, but we still talk every now and again, like once or
Nice.
twice a year. So it felt good to translate those experiences because there's so much. I think the thing about representation right now, the hurdle that like kind of we'll have to overcome is that there's no one like that you would want to have a conversation with in the first place. There's no one that will look you in your face and tell you, oh, black boys aren't smart. But when they think smart boy, the image that pops into their head isn't a black kid. There's no one that'll tell you black girls aren't pretty. But when pretty girl pops into their head and they're like personal search engine, black girl is not is not who will pop up. Um, uh, I remember like when I was younger, hearing girls describe it's like, oh, what's your dream guy? And they'd be like, I want someone tall, dark, and handsome. And it took me until like ninth grade to realize they weren't talking about me. I was like, wait a minute, you said you said tall, dark, and handsome. I am dark. What? And then I'll like squint. I'll be like, that guy's not dark at all. What are you talking about? um, I think
The best.
where we are in representations, like I think there are conversations about that stuff that need to be had. When we think like, oh, she's just an innocent third grader at school. The black girl is not who you have in your head when you think about that stuff. So in all of the stuff that I write, I am trying to get people to open their minds to these ideas. I think we've passed that surface level point where people are like, I get it. Black people can also be smart. I get it. Black people can also be can also be like scientists or doctors, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but I need you to empathize at a base level. And that's like, I think my largest goal for the book, I want kids that are struggling with their mental health to get access to this as a tool. I want teachers who use it in their classrooms. But there's a kid in North Dakota somewhere or like Nebraska somewhere that has never had a Black kid in their class. Like, they never had a Black classmate. They don't have Black neighbors. I mean, they probably see Santa Claus more often than they see a Black person. Um, and that kid is not, like, by no fault of their own, does not necessarily have they haven't exercised their empathy muscles when it comes to these people that are different. But through books like this, where you can see something that's like fiercely personal, like your own mental health, if you can relate to a character that looks different from you, if you can find that middle ground, then I think that
Right.
when you do bump into that Black person, it'll be a more fulfilling experience for both of
Yes.
you. Um,
Yes.
and I think I'll close with it because we brought it up a little bit towards the beginning. Um, and when I write, I do still remember that teacher sometimes. I look at this book with this like courageous and happy Black boy, and I think about it being on the shelf, and I go, are they gonna love you the way that I want them to? Because you're you. Um, I have Weirdo. I have Weirdo 2. Macmillan has also acquired a series from me called The Dream Frontier that I'm writing right now. And it's a fantasy series, and the main character of The Dream Frontier is this like plucky, optimist Black boy named Cygnus. And I look at Cygnus and I'm like, are they gonna love you like they love Naruto? Are they going to love you like they love Luffy? Are they going to love you like they love Tanjiro? Are they going to love you like they love Percy Jackson? And it scares me a little bit because on paper, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a character that looks like me be accepted in that way. Miles Morales basically had to go through hell and high water to a like maybe 10 years worth of comics and then two
All through the
exceptionally
Spider-Verse.
yes. Um all these films to get to that moment. Um, there's a part of me that's fearful, uh, but the fear is overcome uh, by optimism and by hope, and that's what I'm choosing to lean into.
Tony, this has been a gift. I would love to speak to you again. I would love to have an opportunity to just gain the wisdom that you have to offer. I said it before, you are a gift. One last thing. What does the front of your hat look like?
Okay, so this one, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's really dirty. You can't judge me, okay? So this one's like my home hat, right? So I have like a bunch of
Okay,
them, but
okay.
this one got signed by the voice actor for Mount Lady,
Oh,
so I
right.
can't wash it because she signed it.
Got
So
it.
so the front of it is collecting a little bit of dinginess more than I would
Got it.
like. My other hats I can wash them. This one I'm like, it cannot be washed unless I see her again, in which case. Cool.
Well, thank you so much. This was wonderful. I hope I asked all the right questions. I think I just asked the questions that I most wanted to know after reading the book, and your answers were amazing. And it was so very nice to spend a little time talking with you.
Well, I'm grateful for you inviting me into your classroom and us getting the chance to talk. Um, I'm gonna make sure that I reach out for when I'm in LA, and
Okay,
we'll talk more soon.
thank you. Thank you so much.